Preparing to live stream. Please hold. Your call is very important to us. Here we are.
We ignore it.
All right, there we go. Live stream. Okay, well, welcome to At the Devil's Ball Halloween special on Halloween specials.
Yes, our Halloween special.
Very important to us. Here we are. And hold on one second. I'm getting some background noise. All right. And then we are ready to go. So there we go. All right. So the Halloween special on Halloween specials.
The Halloween.
Yes. Specials of Halloween.
I told you next year we're doing the special on our Halloween special on Halloween special. So, you know.
That's right. Yeah. And we're just going to shove it. You're going to end up shoving it up its own ass, which is, it's a very, very Samuel Numene thing to do. But yeah, introductions. My name is Nathaniel. I am the co-host of At the Devil's Ball podcast. We have new episodes every Monday. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Samuel Numene.
Howdy.
Hi.
And I'll introduce my lovely wife. Do you want me to do the Borat voice? My wife.
Please don't.
He loves that even more than I do.
Clearly, it's
yep.
that is absolutely apparent. And then if you are in fact only listening to this on the podcast later on, Jen is dressed as Maleficent.
Yes.
Sam is the boogeyman. I think he's the pick of the litter, as they say in Night of the Demons. What is your costume, Sam? I can't tell from here.
Sorry, it's a Star Trek uniform.
Star Trek uniform. No, there's the insignia. Otherwise, it just looks like you're wearing a urine-soaked shirt. And I am dressed as Captain America, the movie Captain America, which is different than the other Captain America costume I wore years ago, because I'm a Captain America guy. And I've got a shield, but you probably can't really see it, but there's a shield. But that one's not as good as my shield at home. I have a really, really nice, like, metallic shield, but it's in storage. I didn't think I'd need it. I moved to Missouri. I didn't think I'd need it. And then the country went to hell. And I was like, oh, well, I wish I had my shield. It's like a security blanket. But now I have this crappy kind of like big ass Frisbee one. Also joining us is she actually heard the episode she has appeared in has not actually occurred yet. We haven't put it up yet. But she is, I'm going to use the same intro I think I did for that one because I really, really liked it. So she is my BFF from high school. And so I've known her for a billion years now. I proudly call her the Khaleesi because she inspires worship from the poor and downtrodden, but she will burn your fucking city to the ground. Nice Nastasia, aka Nas Reichel.
You had it the second time. It's Reichel.
Reichel. And then Sam, we have two more guests that are joining us, and they're good friends of yours. So why don't you give them an introduction?
Okay, so this is first off, it's Paul, who again made me think about podcasting in the first place. Mary, my pinch hitter for Hocus Pocus. The Stedmans, how are you guys doing?
Good. I didn't realize this was a costume party, so I dressed as freshly showered, and then also I decorated our back window with a beach towel to get the light out. So I guess it's more of like a like.
I thought it was like an LGBT flag for.
That's what I told.
Yeah. That's what I told him to say.
Yeah. So,
always listen.
You can just be dressed up as Ursula or something. That's fine, But yeah. Anyway.
And I'm dressed as somebody who freshly came from work.
Ta-da!
There you go. Yeah. Sorry to rush that on you too. I guess you.
We're dressed as quarantine adults. That's what we're dressed as right now.
My pumpkin beer is not very pumpkin-y. Now it's getting all over my stuff. Damn it.
Co-host of the Invasion of the Podcast and Strange Highways.
That's right.
Two great podcasts.
Yeah, and he did Sleepwalkers with us, which was a blast. And then Mary did Hocus Pocus, our Hocus Pocus episode with us. And then Jen is going to be doing Ginger Snaps, I believe, with us next month.
Nice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. That's our werewolf month. We're doing werewolf movies. After we do a special for, as Paul Lind would say in his awful Halloween special, there's a really scary election day holiday coming up. I will never forgive you for
Paul
making me
Lynde,
watch.
I was just gonna say, Sam, I will never forgive you for
Yeah.
making that.
I can't even fucking believe that. I mean, like it's the absolute worst thing I've ever seen.
Loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Every single way. The Paul Lynde Halloween special. I had never seen it before this year. Never even heard of it.
Yeah. My girlfriend, apparently, who's a little bit older than me, was like, "Oh yeah, I know exactly who Paul Lynde is. Why does he want to watch a Halloween special by him?" And I was like, I never heard of the guy. And then I watched it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is very sad."
Yeah.
Like,
Well, yeah, it's definitely from a different
Era?
universe. It's barely
Yeah.
even this time.
it's barely even coherent.
I mean,
Yeah.
when I texted you all that this, I'm doing that one, and like I listed off everything in it. Like I was doing it like Stefan from Saturday Night Live, because it's like I was
It
so
is.
excited about the whole thing. Just every piece of it is just garbage.
How I felt about the first episode of Tiger King, so I really
Right,
can't
right.
like.
Yeah.
Movie
All right, Sam, why don't you get us started on the conversation? I actually have to go get a paper towel. My pumpkin beer went over my desk. So why don't you get the ball rolling? And I will, while I get some paper towels and clean this up and take off this goddamn mask. It is so hot. I am literally dripping sweat.
So did
So,
everybody end up watching the? Go ahead.
all right, yeah, okay, yeah.
So you guys watched the Paul Lynde Halloween special? That was so good. Did anyone else see it?
I didn't, but I feel like now I need to, just from this description.
Numbers by Kiss.
Yeah, it had first of all, it had Margaret Hamilton, the Wicked Witch of the West. It had the woman who played Witchy Poo on Puff and Stuff.
Oh, I can't see that.
Both playing, those characters, and there were two witches that scared me a lot as a kid, and I'm like they're together, It had Kiss, it had Donnie and Marie, it had
Convoys.
so much Tim Conway, which any Tim Conway is too much Tim Conway, as you said.
Yes.
It had Trucker Lingo and Convoys. It had Pinky Tuscadero from Happy Days. It had Betty White as Miss Halloween 1976.
Yeah. Before she had Betty White hair,
yeah,
which was
it had-
crazy.
It had Disco Numbers by Florence Henderson. It's just insanity. And then like a bunch of these really bad skits.
So it was just inspired by probably all the cocaine.
Oh, absolutely. And like in the mid 70s, that was their version of reality television was let's do variety shows. And that's what this was. And the whole thing is just the worst Catskills.
Oh, we lost somebody.
Yeah, we lost Paul and Mary. I'm not sure. Hopefully they'll get back.
I think he was too frightened by the special.
It's just very like B grade Catskills, like hack lines, but delivered in that Paul Lynde way where everything is just
Oh, there we are.
extra.
He is so camp. You're like, we get it.
Right.
Okay.
And
This is more out than
Yeah.
out.
and that's what I was pondering. Afterwards is because in all the sketches, and he had a short-lived sitcom at the time. He plays a straight guy allegedly. He's in
Singing songs to ladies.
yeah, he sings songs to ladies in this.
Yeah.
And his wife is nice
God damn.
Professor Chaos and the Coon.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful. But yeah, so like I was just confused by the whole thing because everybody knows Paul Lynde is the gayest person
They can
ever.
find,
I mean, it's
yeah.
just, but he has to play it like safe where you can't actually say it, but all the jokes are predicated on you knowing he's gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird.
That's what I mean. I watched it and I was like, it's one big gay dad joke. Like
Right.
I was like, oh my God, this is just like like an hour of gay dad jokes. And I'm like, that's great, I guess. But what the hell is he dressed as a rhinestone cowboy for? Like, what does any of this have to do with anything? And you got poor Margaret Hamilton is in this.
Yeah.
Real actor. And she's like, trotting out the witch makeup again.
Right.
And she's like, hey, I'll get you, my pretty. And it's like, yeah, we get it. You're in Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, he puts it all for that. They both do. Who had her really bringing it, which is better than the show deserves.
Well, I was gonna say Betty White probably had the smartest idea. She was like, God, I'm gonna show up for literally 3 minutes and then I'm out. And then never comes back. Like she doesn't come back for the ending where everybody else comes back. She's not back.
The big SNL
No.
yes, again, she's not there. She's like, no, I'm done.
No, I'm not. Yeah. She does her little bit about how Paul Lynde isn't famous enough for her and bails out. And I'm like, absolutely Betty White.
Exactly.
You know, God bless Betty White. But yeah, it's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Like, and I've seen, like, I saw the Star Wars holiday special, you
Right.
know, like, and I think it's made by the same people. I feel like it's like a lot of the same producers, the same people did
Right.
Donnie and Marie,
Right.
the whole like thing of,
Well, like we were
of
saying while you were cleaning up your beer, you know, it's
yeah, that's what I get for drinking a stout. I never drink
the
stouts.
variety show was the 70s version of, like, you know, the reality show now, where it's just cheap,
Yeah.
easy to produce, put on screen, doesn't cost a lot of money. Boom, you're done. You have programming for, you know, X amount of hours a week.
Okay, so I'm going to say something that's probably going to be a little polarizing. Maybe the people in this room aren't going to like me for it, and anybody watching or listening to this is probably not going to like me for it. But Kiss kind of sucks.
Oh, they
Yeah.
really do.
Oh, they're terrible.
Like, okay, thank you. I was like,
This was their first big TV performance.
Yeah.
How they hadn't really figured out how to lip sync on TV yet, because they kept.
yes, they absolutely could not. Yeah.
And
He was.
It was the exact same tracks on the record. Like, even like during Beth, you know, his voice cracks and all these parts where when I'm listening to the record, I'm like, why did the producer stop this? You know, but then they played on TV too.
Well, I mean, I think it was so. At least some of it was seemed to be filmed live.
Right.
Like, so I think Kiss was doing a live performance in front of an actual live audience, so they couldn't really like fix it.
Mhm.
But yeah, they're not a very good band.
That they could only, you know, blow up the speakers and shoot the fire, you know, once.
Well, I wondered. I was like, is Gene Simmons gonna do the tongue thing? And my girlfriend actually, Lori, said, "Oh no, they're not gonna let him do that on primetime television in 1978." Like, but he did the fire thing instead.
Right.
You know, but so they got the whole pageantry of Kiss out there. But although I did think his little conversation with them at the end was actually pretty funny. Like, I actually kind of like laughed at it, like, legitimately. I was like, oh, I'm getting old, I guess. Like, I'm like, oh, I am old enough now. I guess the dad jokes are funny.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. But I can't remember what he said to him, but he said something about them, and they were like, we don't wear makeup. And I was like, that's actually pretty funny. Like, you know, but yeah, Paul Lynde.
The special, right? Because
I did.
Sam watched it. So what'd you think of it?
Yeah.
I liked it, but I like corny stuff. But also at the same time, I'm mad that Sam introduced me to it. So.
Oh, he'll pay. He'll pay. He doesn't know it yet, but he'll pay. But
I watched like the Carol Burnett show and all of that kind of stuff. So I kind of like that variety show hour kind of thing.
Sure. I mean, that definitely has its things. I mean, I think that the best thing about this particular Paul Lynde special is the fact that it's just this bizarre oddity.
Right.
And that's worth something at the very least.
And
I mean,
it barely even hangs together on the thin premise they gave it. I mean, it falls apart several times.
Yeah. Why? What was her name there from Happy Days? The
Pinky
waitress.
Oh, Pinky Tuscadero.
Pinky
Rob Kelly,
Tuscadero.
yeah.
Yeah.
They had to work the wishes in because they couldn't figure out how to get, you know, other skits other than, you know, with him hanging out with witches, I guess.
Yeah.
But the other sketches have nothing to do with Halloween either. I mean, there's the Lawrence of Arabia one. There's, you know, the Tucker one. I mean,
The really uncomfortable.
that was terrible.
The Lawrence of Arabia one gave me proof that time can actually stop.
Right.
Yeah.
They both looked like they
Oh
wanted
my
to
God.
vomit when they had to go in for the kiss.
Yeah.
And I don't blame
Well,
either
like-
of them in there.
I can't believe we're doing this.
I feel like Florence Henderson pops up in that one.
Right.
Florence Henderson of the Brady Bunch, and at the end of it, she does the song, and I feel like that was the only reason she did it,
Right.
was for an opportunity to sing at the end.
Version of that song I've ever heard, sadly.
Yeah,
Oh my
Yeah.
god, you
What-
like in the supermarket sound great.
yeah. What was the song she did? I can't remember now.
Yeah, that old Black Magic.
Oh, Black Magic, right?
I
Sinatra.
was thinking I put a spell on you, but that was Hocus Pocus.
That was Hocus Pocus, and that was actually done pretty well.
Other discussion.
Yeah,
Which-
Bette Midler did justice to that song.
Yeah, she did pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
We're not
Florence
gonna-
Henderson. Yeah, we did that one already. But
all right, so now I made you all watch, you know, the worst you've never seen, and you're welcome. Oz, I'm gonna have to get like a book report on that by Halloween from you. Sorry.
yeah,
All right, you know, it's going to be in Courier New, but I'll get that book report.
I feel like Comic Sans is more this thing's jam, to be honest. But
If you could just do it in papyrus and font. That'd be great.
I'm
All
gonna
you
sc-
have to do is send me a text that says "I fucking hate you," and I'll know you watched.
yeah, I'm just gonna scrawl your name in blood for my suicide note.
Right.
And like Stanley and It. Like I'm just gonna like write your name on the wall.
This is
Papyrus though.
Paul Lind.
I mean, Sam, just from hearing about this, is this like a ring situation where you just have to show it to a certain amount of people, or else Paul Lind's gonna come out of the TV and eat your soul?
That's probably, yeah.
Like one of the
I mean,
things, like Paul and Marion and Jen and I bonded over at first was Found Footage Festival, which is watching the worst things you can ever find and making fun of it.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of our jam.
It's kind of like when you find a weird smell and you have to like show it to everybody else and be like, "This smells weird. Smell this."
this is disgusting. Here, try it.
So moving on, I think we've dived the depths of the
have we done enough Paul Lind, do you think?
There's definitely enough.
Happy Halloween.
Who wants to go up next this Halloween season?
Really nailing the.
I can't. I have to get it out now because if I do it later, it's just going to sound like I'm just slurring people.
I actually practiced the damn thing. I was trying to get my Paul Lind voice down. That's a scary holiday coming up.
It's not to slide into Charles
I
Nelson
was-
Riley.
Right.
I went as the Hindenburg.
It
It was a disaster.
Anywho, who wants to take the pumpkin next? I feel like we've done enough.
Absolutely. Who's up next? What's the next Halloween special we want to talk about? Everybody kind of had one. So what do we want to talk about?
Anyone want to talk about Muppet Show? Because I can always talk
We
about
could, we could absolutely talk about the Muppet Show. I think that sounds like a great idea.
Muppet.
Paul, we appreciate the effort with the Juggernaut bitch helmet. Is that what that was supposed to be, or what?
No, but sure.
it looked like the version of the Juggernaut helmet from X3, X-Men United.
I mean,
so I thought that was
It's probably about how much money it cost to make that. No, it was. It's
the
my
whole movie. The whole movie.
my
Yeah.
Professor Chaos Butters helmet.
Oh yes, okay.
Oh,
Now
I have a whole thing. Like Mary has. We went to like Wizard World a couple years ago, and she dressed up as the Coon, which was Cartman's character from South Park when they play superheroes or whatever. So we had a whole
nice.
outfits. And I was like, oh shit, I have a closet with helmets and things. So let me grab one to feel like.
Nice.
But by the way, having a helmet on with headphones, you can't hear anybody. Spoiler. I don't know if you know that or not, but makes it tough. That's why the Juggernaut doesn't podcast.
No, you can't take it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're stuck with it. Anyway, before we were interrupted by helmet shenanigans.
Yeah, that's what
The
I do.
Muppet, yes, Jen wanted to talk about the Muppet Show. And
I
this
always
is-
want to talk about Muppet Show.
Yeah.
The episode that I watched for this was a Vincent Price episode, which was crazy good. It was in the first season, so they still hadn't kind of pulled all of the facets together yet. Like they have a different opening. They don't have all of like the characters together necessarily. Some of the running jokes aren't as solid. Some are missing.
Yeah, the through line's a little shaky throughout the episode, which they kind of do a better job on later episodes, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were still just kind of marveling at the fact that they convinced someone to do in like the late 70s, early
Right.
80s a vaudeville show, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
from the 20s.
a variety
with-
show. I mean,
with
another variety show.
puppets.
Yeah.
yes.
So they're kind of like, I can't believe we're doing this. So that, I mean, there's that kind of newness to it, which was nice. It is very like, okay, here's the show, and this is our first sketch, and this is our second sketch. But they do focus on monsters a lot in this episode, and they show some that you don't see normally, and a couple of fan favorites. Like they have Sweetums in
Right.
it, which is the big giant guy that lends a hand to Vincent Price towards the
Yes.
end there and helping take his costumes upstairs.
And he taught the move because he used it later in the episode.
There's actually two versions of this episode. There's the one that's on the DVDs, which is the one I originally watched, and then I found out that there's a different version that was Daily Motion that had an extra sketch in it, which
Had a song.
that was a song that was like my favorite sketch, which was Vincent Price is the Wolf Man and a bunch of monsters singing "You've Got a Friend."
Right.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I did catch that one on YouTube. I found mostly found clips of this one on YouTube. The actual full episode was one of those ones that had a bunch of weird edits in it to try to keep it from getting taken down. That you might see on YouTube that have like close-ups suddenly of like a fraction of the screen, and I couldn't watch it because that stuff drives me nuts. So I instead watched clips from it on YouTube. I did see the "You Got a Friend" bit, which was very, very good.
Yeah, very much. Vincent Price is really good comic timing.
Yes.
Which isn't something that he gets to show off a lot. But I mean, he's done so much work in the industry. He's
Right.
just got he's pinpoint dropping
And
lines.
he knows himself as a character well enough to know, what works and how to deliver it. By that point, Vincent Price was Vincent Price, so
Yes.
you knew he had a character he played whenever he showed up on something.
Right.
And that takes a lot of work, especially when you're doing comedy. He usually doesn't do anything to play like the big mad scientist or whatever.
Right. But no, he was dropping bars. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I always love like the little incidental monsters that they have like in the corners of the screen, like just
Right.
kind of
Doing
burbling
whatever.
along and minding their own. I'm like, there's such a beautiful story to be told there, but just
Yeah.
like really just like this is a monster's world and you were just in it. And
Yeah.
Right. What did you think about the three-headed monster that they kept going back to throughout the episode?
oh my god, that feels so annoying. I get it.
Right.
I get it. It's a bit, and again, it's vaudeville. It's bit, and not always something that like Fozzie Bear is not my favorite character because he's constantly doing that.
His whole thing is that he
Pie
bothers. And
and
It bothers me more than not liking Kiss. That statement bothered, like not liking Fozzie Bear. I
I
feel
didn't
way
like him,
worse
but
than
he's
saying-
not one of my favorites.
I think Kiss isn't great, but you gotta watch out about that Fozzie talk there.
I would like the weird ones that are like New Zealand, the guy who throws the fish, like that guy.
I thought we were going to get, when they had Sam the Eagle in the episode, I thought we were going to get one of those, you guys are weird things. And
Well, he
really
did.
didn't.
Well, again, he's not. They didn't really build him into that character as much.
Right.
In the first season, his whole thing was trying to do that. Pushing Wayne and Wanda
Right.
as the normal people. Those are the
Yeah.
ones who are singing, and then like
Right.
Wanda turns into a monster. So
Yeah.
like, every episode, he's like, Wayne and Wanda are normal, and you
Right.
guys are freaks, and then like something freaky happens to them, and that's
Right.
the deal. So
I laughed. I literally laughed out loud when Wayne got eaten, though.
Yeah.
that was pretty
Like, yeah, I mean, like all of a sudden they're in the middle of singing an actual like completely played straight song, and then all of a sudden the monster comes out, eats him, literally eats
Yeah.
him. And and then I think they cut to the I saw a bit of the furniture coming alive and eating people, and they do it as a news story, and then it shows a guy in his apartment being attacked by all these different furniture bits. I literally laughed out loud. I was like, this is unbelievably funny. And
Creative they are with all, how they make all the gags work. It's all low
Yeah.
budget, all done in camera. It's all,
yeah.
None of it's, going to blow your mind. Be like, it's creative to actually pull all that stuff off. Like when they turn the TV into the monster, it's
Yeah. And then the laugh track.
right.
They put a laugh track on everything. That's pretty brilliant. We don't see that anymore, which is good, I guess.
Yeah, it was
But,
suck. But,
but yeah, I mean, that was, speaking of things that we don't do anymore, and this is something I wanted to talk about when we first got started, and we were running behind, so I just kind of jumped into it. But the whole impetus behind this entire special, the entire reason why behind our conversation is because I remember when I was a kid, and maybe you guys are, I think we're all around the same age.
Right.
But when we came home on trick or treat when you were a kid, you went out trick or treating, came home, and then there would be these specials.
Yeah.
That would be on TV that you could watch. Like there would be Charlie Brown, there'd be Garfield, there'd be, and do they still do that? I haven't had actual television in like.
I just read an article today that like the only place they're playing the Charlie Brown special is on Apple Plus. So I mean,
Really? Okay.
Yeah. It's just
Well, I
because-
do. Yeah, I mean, I know that Disney Plus too, like now has like a Halloween section, and which features a lot of their films and some TV stuff. They got a couple of old Disney stuff in there, Disney specials. But
I've been
But
on a
general-
rampage the last few days of like nothing but Disney specials of
Yeah.
Halloween and YouTube Halloween specials, everything I could get my hands.
There's been candy wrappers just spread all over the house.
yeah,
Just- Yeah,
that's how I spent this past weekend. Really, was like going through all of this stuff, and then I actually did watch more stuff on Disney Plus.
Right. Like I mentioned in the Monster Squad episode, it's like I watch horror all year round. I watch all horror, but when it comes to Halloween, I want stuff that's gonna be take you back to getting home from trick or treating and running on a blanket and sorting out all your candy and trading your candy with your siblings and like you said, Garfield or the Muppets, or God forbid if I was old enough, I would have definitely loved the Paul Lynde special legitimately in a different way.
I wasn't even born yet, so
right. Yeah, I was a year out from being born. So
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, Muppets.
Muppets, hell yeah.
Muppets. It's a very good episode, yeah. And Vincent Price is just fantastic in it, and gets to, as you pointed out, gets to do some stuff that he doesn't normally get to do, and the joy he has in doing it comes out while he's doing it, and that's really something special. I think that the idea of how much fun he's having talking to a bunch of socks. I mean, like, I love the Muppets. I'm being mirthful for the sake of humor, but because I actually do love the Muppets, but yeah, he's actually having a great time just interacting with these puppets and just goofing off, and it's really something great. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that one in there.
And I think you guys summed up everything.
All right, who wants next up?
We can maybe talk some Garfield. I can always talk some Garfield.
Let's do it.
US Acres?
No,
US
they're not even in this stuff.
Yeah. Sheldon, was that the one?
Sheldon, yeah, he was the Garfield, the Farm and Friends.
Yeah, U.S. Acres. Yeah, that's
yeah.
Like Sheldon was the duck with the inner tube, right?
Yeah,
that had the Sheldon on the inner tube.
No, wait, was that
Sheldon was the one that was in the egg.
He was the one that was in the egg.
Actual eggshell named Sheldon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
that makes sense now that you say it.
My brain's a rotting jackal there. I'm sorry.
No, funny enough, I didn't actually discover this Garfield Halloween special until this year. Really? And I thought I'd seen all of the Garfield holiday specials, but this one was pretty awesome. I've always just kind of loved Garfield. I love the way Lorenzo Music just kind of was able to make him have these like real zingers of one-liners to John, but sound so monotone and sarcastic at the same time.
It always confused me as a kid because I would watch Garfield all the time, and then I would watch the real Ghostbusters all the time. I'm like, why are they the same guy? What the hell?
Was he on the real Ghostbusters?
Yeah, he was the original
Pete
Venkman until Dave Coulier took over.
Oh,
yeah.
Which we don't
Dave
talk about.
Coulier, we shouldn't talk about.
He was the later Pete Venkman on the Ghostbusters animated series.
To be honest.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
I know he was also like the voice of Ruggles Ice Cream, so I always thought that Garfield was the Ruggles Ice Cream mascot. That was young stupid me.
When you think of it, I think I had the same impression, so you're not wrong.
Okay, good. As long as I'm not the only one that's wrong.
So you said that you discovered the Garfield Halloween special.
I did.
Okay.
Just this year.
Okay. Well, just let the world know because they may not be aware of it. So what was it about it that you liked that you like? I mean, I know you like Garfield, but what was fun about that Halloween special versus like his other holiday specials like Earth Day and President's Day, whatever else that Garfield.
He was less mean to Odie than usual.
Okay.
He has a penchant for kicking Odie off the kitchen table. That didn't happen at all in this special.
No, Odie saves his life.
Yeah, Odie saves his life, and then he gives Odie a full bag of Halloween candy.
He feels badly, and then says, "I'm gonna do something that
I've never done before.
I've never done before. Here's
and it's give a dog chocolate."
Yeah.
Odie's going to die. Let's.
And it did, like for a kids animated Halloween special, especially something as lighthearted as Garfield. It went kind of dark.
It went very dark.
Pirate ghost thing.
Yeah,
like, it's not something you see a whole lot of, especially in Garfield.
I had this since I was a kid, but there were a lot of musical numbers in this that I didn't remember.
And those are relatively risque for 1985. Like he makes like pillaging and plundering
Yeah, it was
and
the whole
like
turn
girl in every port. And like, it's like, there's a lot of stuff that like, I think would go over a kid's head. That's like, there's almost an acknowledgement of like, he's singing old pirate shanties, and those things are not pleasant songs.
Right.
They're usually about how they're going to be doing awful things to people. And so Garfield's singing this song like it's like it's like this harmless Halloween thing, and it gets it. So I'm like really, that's interesting. That's actually a theme in a lot of these Halloween specials. When I watch them, it's like holy shit, some of this stuff is really bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
For children to watch. But yeah, like, so that one in particular, I was like, there's a lot of this pirate talk that but it doesn't really shy away from pirate talk. So I'm kind of like, oh,
No,
all right, well,
absolutely. And then the surprise of the old man in the mansion that just happens to be there when they go up, like when they actually get to the island and go up to the house.
Yeah.
It was creepy looking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I probably would have been afraid of him had I been younger.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I think
a couple years ago because this is their first time watching
Hush
it.
you.
So, okay.
Can't say any harsher
Like
than that.
in my early 30s, it would have scared the shit out of me, but now I know better. You know, like
There is a time where we're going to be off camera.
yeah, you guys are gonna cut back. I'm gonna have a black eye. It's like good stage makeup. I'm like, yeah, it's makeup. It's definitely stage makeup.
he got hit by a baseball.
He ran into a door.
Yeah.
Repeatedly.
The door is your mouth.
Speaking of getting too dark. Here
No,
we go.
I don't abuse my husband at home, I promise.
No, of course you don't. We would never condone that sort of behavior
I'll do the
here on At the
Lucille.
Devil's Ball.
I'm blinking in Morse code right now, you guys. Yeah.
Please help me.
The reason I agreed to this, I was just hoping you guys would pick up on it and then call somebody. I cannot get out of this by myself.
We are on YouTube, hopefully, so maybe somebody's watching. You know,
Please don't actually call the cops on that.
in like 5 minutes, they're gonna get a wellness call.
You're not gonna call the cops, but they're gonna leave a comment that's like, you know, a Russian link to like watch Cops for free at this website.
You're gonna be like, oh, the beach towel is a signal we didn't know. Like, just,
turns out all the windows are blacked out with towels. This one was quote unquote for the light, but it's actually to keep the neighbors from seeing what goes down in
muffles
the
the sound
Stedman
a
household.
little bit too. Just yeah, they're just like, man, they're making steak again tonight. Like, yeah, whatever. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyhow, back on track.
There is no spousal abuse in Garfield, thankfully. So,
Just animal on animal abuse.
yes, yeah, and that's okay, I guess, if they're animated. But yeah, there's also like the idea that Garfield actually like nearly gets hurt in this too. Like he actually like, falls in the water, he can't swim, he's gonna drown, and then Odie does rescue him. But yeah, like but I do remember I used to watch that one every year when I got home from trick or treating when I was a kid, probably up until 1990 or so. It aired alongside Peanuts,
Right.
and you got to hit the nuts part at the end of that, or it starts getting weird. If you slur it at all, it becomes something very different.
This is
That's an entirely different special.
Peanuts.
This show is Peanuts.
Peanuts.
I said nuts, people. Peanuts.
Get your mind out of the gutter.
oh no.
I like that you guys are like very going into like John Mulaney territory a little bit.
It's kind of I'm not going to be able to unhear that now.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, they're similar. They are absolutely similar. Happy Halloween.
One.
Any other stuff?
I loved the Peanuts. And I said peanuts. Get your mind out of the gutter. In our Halloween special.
So if you just watched this for the first time last year or this year, were there any specials that you watched as a kid that you really stand out, or?
You know, I was really trying to think on that, and I couldn't really come up with any special because we didn't have cable. We had public access TV, so that was a bunch of garbage.
I'm sure there were Halloween specials on
PBS.
that, but they weren't quite what happened.
Yeah,
in
I'm
ABC.
not
Yeah.
memorable enough for me. So
You grew up in a Catholic and Jewish household. How many Jewish Halloween specials did you watch growing up? Was there anything out there that? Okay, I just want to know.
I watched this many.
Okay, I don't know how many nights Halloween runs.
Not like Hanukkah. There's not eight nights of tree
13
giving.
nights. What candy a night?
They just give you these weird gummy dreidel candy. Snubby.
Oh god, that would be
It's
disgusting.
just a series of tiny hats.
It would be
That's all.
made of like
Yeah, but I
peanut
mean,
dust or something like that because Jewish food is always made of gross things,
Oh, all right.
gross
There you go.
plant things.
house to just make you feel guilty.
They're like, you really need this candy. There are people starving. All
Yep.
over.
Yep. Everything with a dose of Jewish mom guilt.
Yeah.
All right, so what's
Well,
next?
I just stopped that completely. I'm sorry. I was making
I
a
was
joke.
gonna
with,
say,
like,
do we want to? I mean, we could jump right into Peanuts.
We absolutely could. I mean, they do kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, like I said, I used to watch the two of them at the same time all the time on Halloween night. I'd come from trick or treating at like 6:30 or whatever. At like 7 to 8, it would be like Peanuts and Garfield. And
Figured up.
Right.
Peanuts it's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown.
Right.
It's another odd one. I think I think that in my memory it was way more coherent
Mhm.
than the actual version of it. Like that actually there's a lot. It's very very sketch based,
Mhm.
which I don't remember. I remember there being more of a plot when I was a kid. There really isn't one. There's like a couple of different things going on. It's like, and it's basically the kind of a lot of the same Charlie Brown jokes, which is Charlie Brown is going to kill himself by 20.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's treated very, very awfully, and not just by the other kids, but by the neighborhood itself.
Mhm.
They're giving him rocks.
I'm not saying like, oh, if you got an invitation to the party, that was a mistake. Like,
It's a mistake. Yeah.
wow.
There are two Charlie Browns, and only one of them gets invited. So if you got one, that means the other one didn't, and that means you're the mistake. Like, and yeah, Charlie Brown, I'm gonna hold the football for you this time. Did in the history of Peanuts? Has he ever kicked that football? Did
Nope.
they ever finally do that?
I don't think so.
I'm gonna go find Charles Schultz.
I don't know if
Because
he's still around.
he's not alive. No, he's
Yeah.
I'll go to his grave. I mean, I don't know, but yeah. Anyway, like he never righted that wrong. I feel
it
like-
just shows that we just know that Charlie Brown is the Cleveland Browns. We just know that.
You have that T-shirt.
Yeah, I do. Hey, that's right. I do have a Browns orange T-shirt with like brown and white striping. That's kind of.
No, it's got the Charlie Brown
Yeah,
brown
it's
stripe
like-
across an orange shirt.
Yeah, I didn't realize I just said that when I said that, but yeah, he set us up for like, well, you're always going to try, but no.
It was always so heartbreaking too, because he was always willing to be kind of optimistic and then just got stomped down again.
Yeah, like a Cleveland sports fan. But anyway, continue.
There's a lot of weird melancholiness to all of those old Charlie Brown cartoons. And,
Yes.
oh yeah, prepare you for the constant disappointment of being an adult.
Well, even Linus, he gets shit on a lot too, right? Because of his belief in the Great Pumpkin.
Yes.
And then I was also, I mean, I don't know, like it's been a while since I've seen this because I don't have Apple TV. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have that, but that just like, I don't know how much of it was being drawn about him having his blanket. I don't know. I know that was always like an ongoing thing about him having
Yes.
his
I don't
support
recall
blanket.
him actually having his blanket a whole lot in this special.
So, I mean, it was
he
always
has it. It's just not called attention to. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just he always has that because he's always kind of like
Oh.
he's stepping between being like a baby and a kid, and so he's always kind of being shit on too for his belief, and that's why he and Charlie are probably good friends because like they're not going to make fun of each other. I mean, maybe Charlie does make fun of Linus a little bit, but at least Linus has a blanket and Charlie has nothing, other than a dog that goes off on adventures.
Yeah, he has a dog that doesn't care for him very much. That's about it.
Yeah. Well, a quick Google search does say that Charlie Brown has indeed kicked the football, but not when Lucy was holding it.
Oh,
Other people have held it safely for Charlie Brown, never Lucy. The closest I've just read, the closest it ever came was in 1979 in a storyline where Charlie Brown was in the hospital. Lucy promises that she'll let him kick the football, but it never
What
happens.
did he have? Did he have cancer? What really how
He
dark
was
that
sad.
show is? Yeah.
Yeah.
he was going to
It's a tumor, Charlie Brown.
Oh,
Oh no, that's the worst special.
find out. It's like Charlie,
you have 6 months to live, Charlie Brown.
you've never had a dog. I don't know.
Good grief.
Listen, Charlie Brown, but Snoopy died 5 years ago. Like,
Oh,
yeah.
God. Aw.
GoFundMe isn't funded, Charlie Brown.
Well, this got sad.
Yeah.
No, it just got Charlie Brown.
It just got Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Charlie Brown.
Just donate like plasma or marrow for because they're like, fuck him.
Well, he's never had hair. I mean, the signs are all there. I just
Well,
gotta,
no, they came in to donate blood, but instead, like, they just gave him rocks. And,
Oh.
like, I need a kidney. I got a rock.
oh, that made my whole month. Thank you. Thank you for that.
But anyway, yeah, I had made the joke at the end of it. Speaking of going too dark with Charlie Brown, Lucy wakes up at 3:30 in the morning and realizes Linus is still out in the pumpkin patch, and I was like, "Where the fuck are their parents?"
Right.
Like, he's out in a pumpkin patch at 4 in the morning. Like, what the hell? And she goes out and gets him. And I kind of made the joke of like, well, been real tough since mom and dad left. Like, you have to go out and get him out of the pumpkin patch. And I'm like, why? Where are his parents? Where are Linus and Lucy?
They're still at that party.
Couple trombones.
They left last Halloween through the pumpkin patch. That's what we're gonna find out.
Party of five.
The Great
Peanuts,
Pumpkin.
apparently. Like,
Yeah, the Great Pumpkin, aka father, went away for cigarettes the year before. He's just hoping.
it turns out the Great Pumpkin is just the ghost of his father. The follow-up episode is Charlie Brown's Hamlet.
Oh, no. Oh no.
I'm getting punchy.
It's my fault. I apologize. Please continue.
No, I will say though, I thought that was actually a really sweet part, and it kind of
Yes.
stopped me for just a moment because Lucy isn't usually like that. And to just see her, she actually set the alarm to wake up on her clock to wake her up at 3 a.m. so she could go check to see if her brother was still in the pumpkin patch or if she needed to bring him inside, which was
Yeah.
incredibly sweet. It's not a side of her that you see very often.
No, and yeah, it's a brief moment, and thank you for tethering me because I'll keep going. But yeah, it's a nice moment of her actually showing some humanity, which we don't see from Lucy very often.
Like, oh, she actually cares about her brother just
Cares about
a little
him.
bit.
She'll call him a blockhead, tell him he's wasting his life looking for the Great Pumpkin, but she won't leave him out in the pumpkin patch too long. She'll at least go get him at 4 in the morning. So, up until then, it's a fair game. Exactly 4 o'clock.
Yeah, because the pumpkin was supposed to come at midnight, so they got 3 hours to get him out of state if somebody kidnaps him. Time for that.
Someone's intercepted the letters to the Great Pumpkin. No, he's oh, good Lord. And you had to bring me back down that hole, huh?
And then there was that whole bit with Snoopy as the pilot.
The Red
It just
Baron.
kind of, I felt
Versus the Red
he
Baron,
was
right?
versus the Red
Yeah.
Baron. Yeah. It just kind of went off on its own little tangent, which I understand. It was his Halloween costume, but I think they spent way too much time on that.
Got some
they
records.
didn't have much for Snoopy to do in that, did they? I don't recall.
No, he dresses up in the costume as if he's going to go trick or treating, and instead goes and plays at his doghouse instead.
Yeah, and there's this it wasn't very long, but I still felt like it was too much of a focus on him versus the Red Baron.
Well, I think the
and
whole
then-
thing's 21 minutes or something. It's not exactly.
Yeah. Mentally, it just felt long, I guess.
Oh, I mean, we want to talk about a long sequence in that. I mean, there's a lot of padding in that. I think there's a lot of padding in Garfield. And I'm like, for a 22-minute cartoon, I don't know why padding was so, necessary. But yeah, there's a lot of extra stuff in both. I think that involving a lot of the Hanna-Barbera effect to a degree. Like, what's the same, use the same background of characters walking from one place to another in order to kill time. There's a lot of that in Garfield. There's a lot of that in Peanuts as well. But I mean, they're somehow priceless childhood memories, and it's interesting to me that these things have endured for certain people. And I always wonder why that is. Does anybody have any theories on that? I mean, let's tether me down before I go completely batshit with weird Peanuts theories.
Well,
Does anybody have like an actual serious theory as to why these things endure? like why they
I
matter.
mean, it's the nostalgia effect. It's anything you watch when you're a child.
Yeah.
You just grow attached to it. That's why there's so many things you almost never want to revisit as an
Yeah.
adult because you realize, oh no, this was garbage.
Yeah, that's why I just
So,
go back and rewatch MacGyver. You know, it's the same reason. I'm like, no.
oh yeah. That's why I'm
Well-
afraid to rewatch Highlander. I know it hasn't held up.
It didn't hold up then, honey, but like you
Oh.
Wait, I take that back. What I'm saying about Fozzie. Now we're talking. Like, keep crossing lines.
Seriously.
Depends on which Highlander. If we're talking about Christopher Lambert, I'll go to back with you. If we're talking about the fake French guy, then no, I don't know.
I'm talking about Highlander the TV series. Yeah,
Oh.
that
Okay. Well, maybe. I don't know.
Look.
Oh, I don't know. But anyway.
the fake French guy indeed. But yeah, did that have a Halloween episode? I doubt it did.
But I actually have something that's like somewhat appropriate. That's not
Yeah.
like taking peanuts in a dark way or whatever. I don't
Sure,
know.
yeah, go for it.
I think, and I was going to pose this question, but you approached it earlier about like what works for people, what brings you to it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what works is that it gives you like a set of like bumpers or guardrails as a kid,
Mhm.
right? Where these are the things you're drawn to. This is the stuff that you dig, but you know that you're going to approach this in an environment in which they're going to give you these things that you want, but they're not going to betray your trust. Like as a kid, you don't know that, but you just, because these are characters that you know and that you like, and you're going to get a little bit of spooky, but it's not going to take you to a point to where you're scared to the, like where you have to like cover your head or have nightmares about it.
Right.
You can have fun. You get to the edge and have a little bit going on, and you can kind of, you want to get into like the creepy stuff, but then you can still want to go to bed because you had a fun night getting candy. I think there's something there to be said. Like, it was said to me by my co-host on one of the other 7,000 podcasts that I do, when he and I talked briefly about Hocus Pocus, because when Mary was coming on your show to talk about it, he said that when Mick Garris pitched the script originally, he walked in with the bag of Halloween candy to the producers and he handed it all to them and said, smell this. This is what I'm willing to go for this film. And it's just that feeling, that notion of that late October night where it's just cold enough to where you want to be indoors. But if you have a costume on, you're going to be sweaty. You'll be able to be out for a couple hours, getting candy, kicking leaves, having fun. And then when you go home, like your face warms up, your hands warm up. Your parents make sure that, Satan didn't put knives in your candy or whatever.
Right.
And then
always check your candy.
Yeah, because I mean, there could be a switchblade in there. You don't know. I don't know how they put a fun size like switchblade, but whatever. Anyway, but yeah, it's like that thing where it's like then it's like that nice little victory lap of you went out and did your thing, and now you get to sit down and have some fun, eat some candy, and watch this, and it's like we're all in on this together, and in a way. And this is heresy. Here's me saying my statement, and Mary's not going to punch me right now visibly. She'll agree with me. It's the same reason a lot of people like Christmas like specials.
Right.
It just captures that moment, it crystallizes it, and that's why you love it, because it gives you the thing that you know, right? And Mary, you agree with me because you love Christmas. It's like your favorite holiday.
I do, but you twist it like, Mary's going to punch me later because I'm talking about Christmas special.
Well, because I'm not a Christmas guy. She was worried I was going to take this a terrible direction.
I was because he usually does.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that nostalgia is a hell of a drug, no matter if it's fun size or family size or whatever, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's the easy answer. But what makes a good Halloween special for you guys? There's ones that you've all mentioned, and we've not completed all this because I'm sure there's a couple more to talk about. But what makes a good Halloween special for you?
Anybody want to speak to that?
It's like I said earlier, it's just like, it's just bring you back to that childhood when you're coming home and, going through your candy and, everything's awesome and you're jacked up on being able to run outside after the street lights came on and run to people's houses and you never, actually get to go on their porch or get a ton of candy.
I get the shared experience of it because everybody lives separately now. We don't have tribal experiences like we did in the past, but if we all watch the same TV show, we can partially recreate that experience. And especially if you were growing up in like the 80s, the shared experience was what's on 3, 5, and 8 and whatever, or whatever your local channels were. Those were the things you watched. So everybody saw it. And when you got to school, everybody was talking about it. I think there's also something to be said about the mixing of the familiar with the macabre. So you don't have like, I don't know, for me, a lot of these were just like a gateway drug into who I was going to become later. Into watching horror movies and to,
And you have a
getting partially gothy.
and you have a late September birthday. I have an early October birthday. And I think both of those played a lot into why we started, young, getting really into Halloween, because it's like, okay, the Halloween decorations are up. That means my birthday's coming.
Yeah.
It makes it like a twofer.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff on my shit, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, like there's a lot of kid, like when I was very young, I was terrified of stuff, of very spooky stuff. Like I went to a haunted house in a church basement, and that freaked me out. Like crying, my dad had to like take me out. Now, granted, I was like 4, but still, it was in a church.
Sure.
How bad could it be? So yes, there's a lot of that like fear, and then like once you get over that and you start
It's
getting
fun.
into it becomes it's scary, then it's thrilling, then it's fun, and then that gives you a doorway into that, I think.
Yeah.
So I blame
Yeah.
Garfield for all of this crap. You were the gateway drug.
I guess that's true. Yeah. I mean, I've actually been trying to think about for coming up to this episode about why Halloween means what it does to me. And I honestly don't know why exactly. I know that that nowadays, when I got to about, middle school, high school, I started getting into horror films, and that was sort of my deal. That's what I was doing. I don't, but I mean, I honestly couldn't tell you why that appealed to me versus something else. Like, I don't remember that moment clicking. Maybe I've been living a lie. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe I've been brainwashed in some way, but yeah, but I can't remember why. And, but I mean, I have to assume Halloween had something to do with it. I remember a few Halloweens as a kid, not many, but I do remember some. And then I got older, and then Halloween wasn't a big deal. It was mostly like hanging out with friends and watching horror films. And then we didn't really do anything for Halloween specifically. Probably after 5th grade, 6th grade. When do kids stop trick or treating? Any parents here? No. No.
You.
Sorry.
We all
That's
have.
my automatic reaction if somebody
Here,
asks me if I have kids.
Here, high
Speaking
five.
of shared experience,
I just I like that. I'm like,
For my family, it was like once you got out of middle school, it was done. I don't know about
Yeah, I
everybody
was
else,
mine too.
So 9th grade was, you're done.
think
That's
so.
when I
Yeah.
stopped, I think.
When did you stop, Nastasia?
I have no idea. I don't
Yeah.
remember. It's like, as long as I can get away with people giving me candy, I was going to continue.
Yeah, I do remember one year I went out with with some friends, and I was too old, and I got pegged for it. They were like, "You're too old," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever. Give me the candy, or I egg the house," But well, and again, it's in the Night of the Demons remake, for example, they talk about that, where there was a guy who's a boy who's too old to be trick or treating. He's dressed as a crook,
Right.
and his candy sack is actually like a money bag. And two of the characters were remarking, they're like, "Why are there people giving him candy?" One of them's like, "They probably think it's probably a home invasion." They're like, "Give him candy or he'll rob your house." And so I mean, I think that probably happened. I think I was given candy just because I showed up, but I think they thought I was my friend's older brother or parent or something, and I was like, "I'm too old for this."
got to get your little bit for being the designated driver of everybody else. I feel like you got to get a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, and like an actual designated driver, you have at least 3. I mean,
Yes.
just kidding. Halloween's an amateur night. Please drink responsibly on Halloween night. That is your PSA for the evening. Charlie Brown's got cancer.
Charlie Brown's got cancer. That's the one thing you should take away from this conversation.
But yeah. So I mean, that's my experience with Halloween. Is I can't remember when that was. I think it must have been high school. I was too old to go, and but I think it was earlier than that. I feel like 7th grade was probably my last trick or treating experience, and I think I decided to do something else, but I don't remember. But yeah, I have fond memories of watching these Halloween specials. And now, okay, speaking of really, really old ones that have no reason for anybody of our age group to actually be a fan of, Nastasia picked a weird one.
Yes,
Nastasia,
I did.
you want to talk us through Haunted House?
Yes. So Halloween was always a huge thing in my house. My mom was a huge horror fan. She liked Christmas, but Halloween was like where we did it up. And so I remember watching this on a janky like VHS tape, those ones in like the big plastic clamshells. Like it was old.
Yeah.
It was probably like as old as I was. And it's from 1929. It's this 7-minute long black and white cartoon with no dialogue and just a creepy haunted house and dancing skeletons and Mickey Mouse getting the shit scared out of him.
Yes.
And that was my favorite thing ever. Like when that tape finally died, I want to say I was in like middle school or something. It was, pre-YouTube, so I didn't see this thing for years. And then as soon as downloading stuff became a thing, I was
which
like,
we do not condone.
No.
Here,
I completely paid for this on the internet.
I'm sure you do.
And I was just
we
like,
keep
this
things
is
legal
this?
here.
Copyright must have been gone by now. It's from the 20s, right?
Probably.
Yeah,
I always assume it is.
it's 91 years old.
Public domain. It's Mickey Mouse, right? It's public domain.
I mean, anything
it's
public
Disney.
domain if it's Disney.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Disney will come and eat your soul.
Sure.
But it's just the weirdest, creepiest thing with like their dancing skeletons and
They forced him to play the piano for him and everything.
yes, it's like play the piano or I will
play. Yeah,
I was-
play.
I watched this one a lot as well when I was little because we had one of the few pay cable channels we had at the time was the Disney Channel, and they played a lot of those around Halloween.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen it. God, being nice, I'd probably say I haven't seen it in 25 years. I watched it today, and I'm like, wow, this. I remember everything.
Yeah.
It's so prototypical Halloween, especially for so early, because Halloween wasn't as big of a deal as it got later on,
Right.
the Boomers era. It's a good one.
Yeah, and honestly, I remember even the audio more than the visuals. Like that song, I can hear every bit of it in my head, and even just like the sound of the wind in the cartoon. I swear that is like the soundtrack of my early childhood, just watching that over and over again. And I'm sure my mom was just like, well, it could be worse. It could be something that has singing that she wants to watch over and over again.
Yeah, your mom wasn't a big fan of musicals, was she?
Oh no, she hated musicals.
I had a very very nice relationship with Nastasia's mother way back when, and I went to Nastasia's birthday party. And it was all girls in the basement, so I hung out with her mom. Her mom was such a cool like firebrand person, so I totally buy like her wanting to
like his records upstairs, whatever.
She was the coolest. I absolutely love the woman, but yeah, it was all this. So I can envision it like young Nastasia, whatever color her hair was as a child. I've seen very, very different variations, but yeah, I could see your mother being like totally like that's a pretty cool thing for my kid to be into, especially even then it would have been vintage.
Oh yeah, I mean, and she at least waited until I was 6 to bring out the Stephen King. She had to ease me into it.
Yeah.
Not a joke.
No. But it's a really cute cartoon, and I was actually surprised at how well the animation holds up. I was actually watching and being like, this is really, really old school animation, but it actually looks pretty good for the 1920s or whatever it was, 30s. Did anybody else watch it? Sam, you watched it, right?
Yeah, I watched it. I watched it right before I watched the Garfield special this afternoon.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's Disney. I mean, I don't think they ever had a period where their animation was bad.
Yeah.
Obviously, of the time. I was thinking when I was watching it, like, did they actually write a script for this? Or did they just like storyboard, every spooky thing they could think of and just kind of string it together? Because I mean, they're not against the the short.
I would argue, I would actually probably say that you're probably right. I mean, like, I was going to say probably other than maybe the final gag,
right.
of him get kicked out of the house and like, the ghost in the door and he runs away. Other than like the basic setup and delivery of the ultimate punchline, which is Mickey Mouse in haunted house, Mickey House gets out of haunted house, that they probably just made up the rest of it and just like weird imagery. Like it's a very imagery based cartoon. There's no story, so to speak. Probably the only one that we're going to talk about, the Halloween special that we're going to talk about, that doesn't have a story.
Right.
I mean, maybe Muppet Show, I guess, didn't have a story.
No,
but
it's supposed to be.
Yeah, at least the sketches had stories. Right. So yeah, I mean, it's
special had more of a story.
Yeah.
You did get the 3 wishes,
We're not going to stop bringing that up, are you?
No, we're doing the same thing next year. We're going to do this again.
I want to be a trucker.
Is the Paul Lynde special just going to be like a running thing that you guys do?
I probably now that I've perfected the Paul Lynde voice, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, you can't waste that talent.
Yeah.
I worked on this Paul Lynde voice, and I can do some voices pretty well. And so when I hit one, I'm like, now it's like Paul Lynde and Stephen King. Like I can do Paul Lynde and Stephen King well.
You guys should do the Paul Lynde Halloween special every year as an episode, because I know there's these 2 guys that they decided to watch the film Grown Ups every week for 52 weeks. And they would talk about it every week. I don't like. I have not listened to the podcast, but I love
White Claw.
They purposely put themselves through hell, and they would find more and more things just to like get like insane about. So I'm saying once a year, you guys should watch the Paul Lynde special and then talk about it again.
Or find something even worse somehow.
I know. Samuel's up for this. He'd be like, once a month. Let's just do that.
There's more. I'm almost certain there's more Paul Lynde out there.
I know.
Oh, there is.
Like, yeah, I mean,
I've seen his Christmas special.
Yeah.
But like 99.99%.
Don't tell Sam that exists.
I already know. I broke my algorithm on YouTube watching the Paul Lynde Halloween special, and now they just keep showing me more Paul Lynde, and I'm like, yes, please.
Actually, what's funny is after Paul Lynde I did last. I watched through everything else, and then I did Paul Lynde. And so what happens is I found a rabbit hole of YouTube Halloween specials.
Right.
Because I watched those. And some of those were, yeah, you too, Mary. Yeah. There was some, it wasn't on the list officially. So if nobody else watched it, it's no big deal. But I watched Fat Albert.
Right.
That night.
I saw that on my list, and I just feel weird about the Fat Albert.
Everything about that makes me feel weird. Yes.
It makes me insanely uncomfortable.
Yeah. Now, I barely remembered Fat Albert as a kid. My girlfriend remembered Fat Albert as a kid. I didn't really remember. I watched it, though, and I watched it. And I was like, okay.
Watch their bicycle safety special every year at school.
And that's basically more or less what this is too, where it's basically, if you break it down to its most simplest form, the entire Halloween special of Fat Albert is basically telling kids what not to do on Halloween.
Right.
Like,
Fat Albert told people to not watch out for drugs in your candy.
Right.
Is that a weird moment?
Yeah.
Little bit.
Yeah. Well, and that scene had to make sense somehow because you couldn't understand a word the guy was saying. But he just started talking, and he's living in by the way, the coolest thing about this entire Halloween special is they go to this old man's house. He's living in a junkyard, and his front door is the refrigerator door. And I'm like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want to live in a shack with a refrigerator door.
Through it.
What's that?
I said maybe for you because you can fit through it, but some of us are over 4 feet tall. We'd have to duck to get into that door.
Very true.
I need like an industrial freezer door, maybe.
Yeah.
Whatever door they use at the Denny's to keep like all the fat back there. I need one of those doors.
Yeah, me and Paul want the door from like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes. Hashtag goals. There we go. We got it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, but yeah. So anyway, this guy comes out and he starts talking about something or other, and they're like asking for trick or treating, and he steals all their candy, and he's mumbling something, and ultimately what it comes down to is what he's telling them is that back in his day, they just gave candy without a wrapper, and he would just eat it. And Fat Albert, says, "I'm not going to do the voice because it's basically that's a little Jolson-y. I'm not going to do it." But anyway, he says like, hey, don't accept candy without a wrapper on it. And it's Halloween safety. And then it ends up finishing off with the good old trope of, the scary old lady down the block is actually a really nice person,
Right.
and brings them in, which kind of violates that other rule.
Yeah.
Like, don't take candy from people. That's not safe. But we have the old lady at the end of the block will be like, here's soda pop and candy, and you can come in and hang out at her house, and she'll be nice to you.
Because that's weird.
Yeah, because
just drinking weird drinks without asking what's in it is fine.
That's a whole Moss scenario right there.
Well, that's when you grow up. That's just a bar.
That's Halloween for adults.
Yeah, like, well, you trick or treat. Well, here's a drink. Well, what's in it? I don't know. Drink it.
Hey.
Somewhere out there, there's a serial killer who just went, holy shit, razor blades and drinks. There we go. But
funny because they knock that home, so often in all these, Halloween specials.
Yeah.
The candy safety, which, I was, a full-grown adult before I realized that almost never happens. And even if it does, like, it's somebody new doing it for their own family. But the other thing, was knocked it into our heads so much that I remember when I was a kid, we would go to like our neighbors' houses or like people we knew really well on the street, and they would try to give me candy, just or cookies that they made.
That's a whole thing though, because I actually read this on Snopes years ago that there's actually never been any like documented scenarios where kids received like poisoned candy that weren't from family members trying to kill them.
Yeah, it's literally
a big story about this guy who gave his kids cyanide pixie sticks to cash in on their life insurance policies.
But as a kid, like, even if it was people I knew and were friends with my parents, like I wouldn't take like a cookie from this lady I've known my entire life and babysit me because it's Halloween and there might be poison.
On November 1st or October 30th, you take a candy cookie in a second.
Does anybody else feel like that when they were growing up a little bit? Like,
we didn't have people who would do nice things like that for us in our neighborhood.
No. We'd have the people that would give out like nickels and dimes or whatever. Like, thank you. It's like, great, thanks.
Pennies.
Yeah, what is this, 1920? Like, what is this? Like, what I could buy a horse with this? No, I just do it.
That's what my family did when I aged out of trick or treating. They give out they would give out change, and I'm like, you're making me do this?
Yeah. I would also get pamphlets about how like it's the devil's day and I should like give myself like, my soul to Jesus or something. I'm like, well, that's great. Like this is even below like Smarties. Like, why would you give this to me?
You've never worked at a fast food drive-through, have you?
No, I mean, I've done customer service. I definitely worked at a video store around Easter whenever the hottest movie to go get was The Passion of the Christ. But no, I've not worked at a drive-thru.
No, I used to work at the McDonald's when I was really young, the McDonald's in Chesterland, which nobody knows where that is, so I won't bother explaining it.
It's outside of Cleveland.
Chester Tuckyvania was the inside joke. But we had so many like hardcore Bible thumpers that would come through our drive-through and pass off those tiny, like they try to make them look like comic books. So you read them and think they're fun.
That's what they're called, chip tracks, right? The little black and white little bits, right?
Yeah, the little comic books that were all about Jesus. Yeah.
If they were easy to get a hold of without actually going to someone in a church, I would have a collection of those.
I should have saved them.
Just make friends with a waitress. You'll get plenty of them.
I'm sorry, I'm too poor to tip, but
here's your tip.
Here's a little book, and like, here's my tip: go to heaven. Like, whatever. Yeah. Anyway. So no one made cookies for us. Like, we would get pocket change, lint, ribbon candy.
Were you Charlie Brown?
Yes, rocks. There was a tree near my house that ate kites. It was I had a dog only I could see. Like, it was a weird upbringing.
This one year somebody only gave you molasses.
Yes, yeah, they're like, here, just figure it out. I'm like, oh, my bag's all drippy now. And they're like, thanks. Yeah.
Molasses and rocks.
Molasses from rocks. Some corn po. Like, it was bad. No, but I grew up like, I mean, not to go off on this tangent, like whenever I was trick-or-treating, like it was like, and everybody else can probably relate to this here with the whole, like, satanic panic garbage that was going on in the early 80s. And because myself and my younger brother at the time still had relatively blondish hair, but we had blue eyes, that was the whole thing, is that the Satanists are looking for kids with blonde hair and blue eyes. Like, and it's like, I grew up in like a butt crack of West Virginia. What satanic cult's coming for me like that night? It's like
one
it's
that's
like,
looking to level up.
My parents used to tell me that about, but there was gypsies coming in.
Oh wow.
Not a term we can use anymore even.
My parents tried to give me away to gypsies. It didn't work out.
oh.
Yeah, my mom always told me I was left on her doorstep by the forest demons. So
I remember the closest I ever had to.
See, I don't understand what's going on. I can't.
I can remember the closest I ever had to like a safe Halloween was that a couple of years in a row, we were taken to the mall. Did anybody else ever do this as a kid?
I did that with my younger brother.
yeah, I did one time.
Reading
Yeah.
at the mall.
Yeah, you go to the mall and it would be open because they're open until 9 or whatever. So like from 7 to 9, all the stores would give you candy. And that was considered to be the safe variation because everybody was sort of beholden to corporate entities, I guess.
Just crazy people never worked at the mall.
Right.
Right. And corporate entities will never harm you. Like
Right.
absolutely. not.
No.
We did used to always hit up the Domino's in our neighborhood because they would be giving out free pepperoni slices.
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah. That's pretty cool actually.
You would trust that, but like not a like versus a homemade cookie from your neighbor.
Domino's, I already know it's poison.
Fair enough.
At the Devil's Ball is brought to you by the following corporate behemoths. Domino's. Oh shit.
Who else has special?
Percodan. Oh. But actually, I guess that's a segue right there. I wanted to talk about The Simpsons.
All right.
Which
Everybody's familiar with the Treehouse of Horror, I imagine. Yeah, like
Absolutely.
yeah. So I just wanted to go around and like just talk a little bit about favorite bits from that. I mean, originally Sam and I were going to do an episode on just The Simpsons, and we realized it would probably just devolve into quoting.
Yeah.
And there was not a lot of analysis possible. I would like to try to get as much analysis in as we can on it, but I mean, like, what are people's favorite bits, like favorite segments? Because I mean, Sam asked which episodes, and I'm like, does it matter? Like, just
There's
pick
30
which,
of them. So I don't know.
there are 30 of them, and honestly, yeah, I mean, when I say the Treehouse of Terror, we usually mean
First 10 years.
seasons 1 through 12. I mean, like,
Once they got to the point where they were airing the Halloween special after Halloween because of the
baseball. The
Baseball?
playoffs, yeah.
like, why are you even bothering at this point? Just stop.
well, it was still a tradition to do the
Yeah,
horror bits. I mean, it was sort of like, yeah, I mean, at that point, I guess it becomes more scary movie. The Wayans brothers.
On Flag Day is no
Right.
Halloween tradition.
And they had also devolved at that point into just doing like movie parodies of sci-fi and other things that
Yeah.
weren't really Halloweeny. The one I always think of first is not really one of the skits, but the wraparound with the fog that makes people turn inside out.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that one.
They had a little song number was at the end. They're singing and dancing and blood spraying everywhere. And the dogs trying
That
to
is actually one of my most vivid Simpsons Halloween the Treehouse of Terror episodes was because that always stuck out to me when I was little, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Well, I think, yeah, I think that they, especially in earlier seasons, they had a little bit of kind of like what we talked about with Garfield. We talked like, a little bit. There was a little bit of an edge. Yeah, a little bit of an edge to some of them.
talk about, because I know your family didn't really like you
I
watching The
wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons
No.
for a number of years because my mom is like, that show is just filthy. And later in life, I watched the show. I watched like the first couple of seasons. I'm like,
This is tame as fuck.
this is like every Archie Bunker gag, like minus 50%. Like what?
Right.
So I don't really have a lot of like vivid like Treehouse of Horror memories because I didn't really watch it until like I was an adult.
Yeah.
Watching them off of DVDs, really.
Well, what appealed to you? Which one appeals to you as an adult?
Yeah, I really, like I said, I really just don't have any.
No.
For
Well, fair enough.
We'll give you a list before we're out, I'm sure.
like memories about it. Like there's, I don't know if it's one from one of the Treehouse of Horror ones or it's where they have the pirate through this Jeremy High says that. Like that I remember, but like I don't remember like full like storyline
Right,
or anything.
but that speaks to how, quote unquote dangerous like people thought The Simpsons were at the time when
They
it was,
did, yeah.
how subversive it was. It was a subversive show for a long time, and it was good satire, well crafted.
Yes.
At the time, like a lot of parents were like, this is the end of the world.
Yeah, my Catholic family thought it was unacceptable.
I think I do remember. I think my mother had heard that, like, and enough that it got brought up, but I don't remember for sure. But yeah, I think it was brought up that it was like my mother was like, "This show is bad," and I think that she'd probably heard that from someone at church, kind of thing. I grew up Methodist. My mother and my entire family, my mother's side of the family, are super Methodist, and luckily the Methodists are unbelievably liberal about most things. Probably not in their actual official tenets, but if you go to most Methodist churches, they're all like, pro-gay marriage, pro. And I grew up with completely LGBTQ across the board, including my parents, my mother being bi and my father transitioning when I was 8 to female. So, I mean, but I think that was ultimately what happened was my father was probably at the one doing like, The Simpsons are fine.
Right.
Like, just watch The Simpsons. Like, this is not, if anything, it's lowbrow, but it's not going to hurt anybody. And one of the reasons why I think I like the Treehouse of Horror episodes is there's a level of subversion I think that happens in those episodes, that it's almost like the best of their satire abilities are on display. In fact, my one of my favorites, it's actually I think the very first segment they ever did. I can't remember what it was called, House of the Damned, I think, but it was basically the very first one. They go in the haunted house. They do the
Bad Dream House, I think is what.
Bad Dream House, yes. That segment to me is one of the most absolutely perfect encapsulations of what The Simpsons are supposed to be. Like, it is absolutely them taking suburban white middle class and putting what they were making fun of in a horror film and saying, well, what they're going to do is they're going to be in a haunted house. And instead of actually responding, they're going to argue about like cost.
Right.
They're going to be oblivious. Like Homer Simpson's going to be like, well, look, it's a fixer upper. We can't just give it away. I mean, she's like, I'm not going to stay in a house of evil because it's just to save a few dollars. He's like, don't be so stubborn. We're not talking about a few dollars. We're talking about a few $1,000s. And I'm like, there it is. There's middle-class white America.
And then it's got the good punchline of the house decides it doesn't want to live with the Simpsons,
And then blows itself up. Yeah, life with the Simpsons. What choice do I have? It would rather destroy itself than live with us. You can't help but feel a little rejected. And Bart Simpson being at his absolute best, hellion 10-year-old being like, hey man, we own you.
Right.
Make the walls bleed.
Make the walls bleed. Let's see some blood. So all of them I think are at their absolute best in terms of what The Simpsons was originally designed to lampoon.
Right.
Where you had the absolute white middle class suburbia, and then said, well, we'll put them into a haunted house and have them respond the way most Americans would, which would be, well, we don't really care if we're in danger. We're just going to deal with it. And so I mean that one to me always sticks out. Nastasia, what would be one of your favorites?
The one that always comes to my mind first is The Shining.
Right. I feel like that one comes to a lot of people.
Over there.
What about The Shining in particular?
I mean, anything Stephen King related, I like, except for the original Shining, but we don't talk about that.
We will be eventually, but yeah, we of course we did talk about the Mick Garris version.
Yeah.
Our most listened to episode, by the way. I don't know why. That one for some reason has like 60 listens. And I'm like, all right, well, that's the one that I kind of talked about my own bullshit past. So
because
that's great.
The CGI Topiary, that's why people wanted to hear it. That's why people wanted
CGI Topiary. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
It's all about the topiaries. But
yeah.
The one line that always cracks me up is just how one time I think it's Bart as The Shining. They're like, no, we'll get sued.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You want to get sued? Yeah, it's called The Shinning.
Another one I think of a lot is the one where they ban all guns and then the aliens.
That's an older one. That's a later one. Yeah.
Is that the monkey's paw episode?
No, similar bit. The monkey's paw one is they do the monkey's paw from Twilight Zone. This one that Sam's talking about, I think it's like season 8 or 9.
It's later on.
Yeah, it's later on, and it's the idea that Lisa is doing like a report for school or something, and she goes through like in the cemetery and she finds a guy named what was Billy the Kid's real name? That's the joke. Ultimately, it turns out to be Billy the Kid. But he's like, I wish I lived in a world without guns. And she makes Springfield ban guns, and it turns out to be a trap. The ghosts of Billy the Kid and other people come back and take over the town because they're the only ones with guns.
Yeah.
And it turns out Billy the Kid wished he lived in a world without guns, so he could be the only one that had one and take over the world. It's a really fun little side one that they did years later. But yeah, did I describe that one properly, Sam?
I believe so. I haven't watched it in ages. So
It is a good one.
Yeah.
Actually, the last new one I remember watching was the Stranger Things one. They did a Stranger Things one, I think last year, and I remember it very little about it. It was very forgettable, as The Simpsons generally are now. But
it's unfortunate because it just kind of hit like points that's like, oh, it's the thing that we're referencing, but there wasn't the story that feels like that's what I feel like that the series suffers later for.
Yeah.
It references as opposed to tells its own story. Like Bad Dream House is Poltergeist.
Yes.
But its own take on it. The Shining is the Shining, but its own take on it, right?
Yeah.
Homer Cubed is when he goes into the third dimension. That is their take on Little Girl Lost from the Twilight Zone. But which here's the admission. I do a podcast where we watch the Twilight Zone.
Right.
I didn't realize that was a Twilight Zone parody until I got to that episode of the Twilight Zone. So that tells me how strong and fun of a story that is if I didn't even understand the reference material.
You're absolutely right.
And I think that's great. And I think it's also fun. One of the things that subverts this entire Simpsons thing is that you can kill characters, you can screw with them because it's reset because it's Halloween. So having Homer end up in the third dimension and then fall into the real world and be freaked out, and then just because he sees real people and then sees an erotic cake store and then he doesn't care anymore.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. And my favorite line from that episode is Patty and Selma's like, maybe he vanished into fat air. And then you hear him in the distance be like, hey, like he's upset about it.
It's somewhere I've never been before. The shower.
Yeah. Do you see towels? Are you the linen closet? Like, I just love it. I just like it because it's like, if you know these characters, which over the course of the few years you did, that you can pinball them around in this because you already know their character beats and you know their emotional beats. Like, was it the Devil and Homer Simpson where he sells his soul for a donut?
I was going to mention that one.
That's a great one because it's such a silly setup in Flanders is the devil, but there's like a nice little emotional core to it because it turns out that he had actually already gave his soul to Marge. So there's something tied into like the core of the Simpsons, why you tell this fun story, but then you get the stinger of his head becoming a donut and all the cops are outside waiting for him.
Yes.
It's a fun ending. And I've watched some of the later ones and they're okay and they're fun. It's just, there's something like, there's a beauty in like 8-minute storytelling that and there's a beauty in a short story. There's beauty in all of that I don't know if they have that now. Like they run for the joke as opposed to be funny, but tell a story.
Right.
And I think that's why those original Treehouse of Horror bits really resonate with me because they're the little bite-sized and they're fun and they're funny, but they have endings, and that resonates with me.
Well, something else that did this, I didn't put it on the docket, so I don't know if anybody actually has seen this or not. But I last year, when looking for random specials to watch, I found on Hulu somewhere Tiny Toons Night Gallery.
Yeah.
Has anybody seen this?
I saw it back. It was pretty damn dark for kids.
Well, I mean, it was similar.
Right.
It was like the idea of like the Simpsons episodes. It was sort of like the idea of like, here is Tiny Toons. They're going to take those characters and we're going to do 8-minute stories that are basically Halloween. And they did Devil and Daniel Webster as well, which was what Homer and the Devil was, the Devil and Daniel Webster. with in this case though, in The Simpsons anyway, it was Lionel Hutz, so he didn't last long. Versus the actual story where the lawyer actually is a key integral figure, and it's not Daffy Duck, but what was young Daffy Duck in Tiny Toons? Does anybody remember?
Oh, Plucky.
Plucky the Duck. Plucky the Duck was the lawyer, and it was Maximilian, whatever, the evil millionaire kid, was on the hook for the devil. And then they did Abbott and Costello. And I'm like watching it, it's a Tiny Toons episode, and I'm like, they're doing Abbott and Costello. And I was like, do kids know what Abbott and Costello is? But then I realized, well, it doesn't matter if they do, because Abbott and Costello is always funny. But anyway, that's a little aside. But he reminded me of it just then, Paul, when you talked about like 8-minute storytelling and going for the reference more than the joke. And that was, to me, that was Tiny Toons. They did that really, really well. I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun if you like Tiny Toons. But you should, just like Animaniacs, it's really a really fun kid show that actually has a lot of intelligence for adults. But what's going on with Sam? So
I have a question, and I know we're getting to the end here.
Yeah.
We're gonna pour out the campfire, and we're gonna wrap up this episode here.
It's gonna be like thinking, "Are you afraid of the dark?" Except
we enjoyed this conversation and we're older. Anyway, it's like she flicked me. So no, like I know you'd asked us like, what are your favorite things? And I recently did a deep dive into The Simpsons earlier Treehouse of Horror.
Sure.
Because I was covering it on. I feel like I'm just like, hey guys, you should just buy this product, this other product, this other show. That's not what I mean. But we literally just talked about it last week on the Invasion of the Podcast.
Okay.
And we stumbled through it. We drank. We talked. Whatever. This was a better conversation, I'm sure. But anyway, what I always kind of gravitate towards are individual Halloween episodes of like TV shows.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of like not like The Simpsons. I'm talking like today I went back and revisited Community, like in seasons 2 and 3.
Yes.
Halloween episodes. Like season 2 had the kind of pseudo zombie outbreak.
Epidemiology.
Yes.
The name of the episode. Yes.
Just anytime you see Chevy Chase dressed up as Fat Kirk, I think that's what Rich is dressed up as tiny Chevy Chase as Kirk in Community. Not fat, but like svelte and like athletic and agile.
Okay. It's Halloween. You could be whatever you want to be, Sam.
Yeah. That one's a fun one. The trade it's too. It's like the way they kind of subvert the zombie tropes is fun. Then the season after that, they do the whole bit where Britta believes one of them to be a psychopath. So they take turns telling stories to try to suss out who is the psychopath. That was a lot of fun, and it kind of like subverted like expectations. And then another series I'll go to, though it's directly Halloween related because they literally do it on Halloween, is Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but every year it's a caper and a heist. And I love how all the Brooklyn Nine-Nine Halloween episodes are always revolving around like costumes, but it's also about like them trying to like get an item in the precinct to prove who's the best detective. And like, so every year you're expecting like, what's the Halloween episode? And it's always fun. And also like Parks and Rec also does a good time.
All the extras are in costume and handcuffs. Like they're arresting people in bunny outfits. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So like, I always like it because it's like, again, like The Simpsons, like, these characters, their motivations, but especially like with Community and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it's like, they're just going to let it loose and see what happens and just have fun with it. And that's the stuff I revisit now a little bit more just because maybe it's kind of my preferred viewing, but I like those. I like something like that as well.
Yeah. Every Halloween I usually do the Community episodes. Absolutely. And then I do usually the Buffy ones. And I know Nastasia is a big Buffy fan. That's how back in high school, that's how I got into Buffy because I wanted to impress Nastasia. So I started watching Buffy. And I've never been the same since. But yeah, I do like the show. I actually preferred Angel to Buffy the spinoff. But anyway, the point is that actually to your point, Paul, with the idea of like the characters. What was fun about the Buffy Halloween episodes, at least the first 2 Halloween episodes, they did 3 total. And the third one had to do with like Dawn going on a date or something. That was dumb.
Yeah. No one cares about that one.
Shut up, Dawn. You're not even real. But that's not fair. Dawn's real. and Michelle Trachtenberg is very nice, I'm sure. But anyway, the point is that in the first two, it was the idea that the characters were going to do something for Halloween. And so they would dress up and they would choose their costumes, much like Community as well, where you got an idea of who the character was based on what they chose for Halloween. And so on Buffy, it was like, the first one they did, I think Buffy went as a 18th century noblewoman to impress Angel, which is never a good idea. Don't dress up to impress your boyfriend, girls. Or do, I don't know. I'm not your father. But and then but Xander was a soldier. Willow was originally going to dress up in like a hot costume, and she ended up going as a ghost, much like Charlie Brown. I think it's supposed to be a direct reference to Charlie Brown. And then in the next episode was the idea that Oz has Seth Green plays Oz the werewolf, who has my all-time favorite Halloween costume ever. And it's basically that in the previous episode, they all turned into their characters. That was the entire bit. So in the next one, Oz shows up with a name tag that says, "Hello, my name is God," in case he gets turned into his costume. And that's one that I always will remember very fondly. But there's some good Halloween episodes there too. But yeah, anybody have anything last minute they want to throw out before we start signing off?
Yeah. Anybody have any like not new Halloween specials, but like stuff you like to watch now?
Well,
the year, or
I have one that I technically two, I guess, that I discovered while I was following down my Halloween special rabbit hole on YouTube.
Yeah.
It was not Garfield. You shut your mouth. Now, there's this really interesting 2-episode special that I believe it was Hanna-Barbera, but I'm not certain about it.
Okay.
Did The Trouble with Miss Switch, which was about these kids' substitute teacher who was actually a witch, but she was a good witch. And it was just really fun because it had like a plot line of them trying to save her, or she was going to get excommunicated to this isolated demon island. And then the second episode they did was she had to go back in time to save them, like the kids in her class. And it was so cute and I loved it. But yeah, I never even knew that existed until 2 days ago.
I just discovered that right now. I have never heard of that one.
Yeah, it was so awesome. I mean, I'm a sucker for cartoons anyway, but
yeah. My new addition was I checked out Mr. Boogedy.
yes.
like that.
That one's good.
Yeah, it's on Disney.
I haven't
Plus,
seen that in so long.
along with Bride of Boogedy,
I still have to watch that one.
which is a sequel, which is actually okay. What's that, Sam?
I'm afraid to rewatch those, to be honest. I remember as a kid, and I'm like, is this going to suck?
If there's any reason for you to watch it, Sam, I know how much you love the Tommy Lee Wallace It miniseries from 1990. The star of Mr. Boogedy is Stan from that show. Richard.
Yeah. Can't remember the name, but yeah, I know.
But yeah. Anyway, he's the star of it. He's the dad in that show, and does a great job. He's such a putz in that film. But yeah, it's a blast. And I actually had a weird moment when I was watching Mr. Boogedy, realizing that I'm old, and the fact that I thought the mom was hot, and I'm like, I've become that when I'm now watching horror movies or children's specials and realizing that the mom is really good looking, and I'm like, I'm 38. I have become an adult. And now the mom. Oh, Sam's got sight gag going on. Once Sam starts doing the sight gags, we got to start thinking about signing off because he's trying to signal to me that he's getting bored. So
my pets are actually trying to get up on the table. But
all right. Well, my cat does that too. But all right. So, any last minute thoughts on Halloween specials? Anything you want to put out there?
Paul won't let me live this down if I don't mention the Wishbone Halloween special.
There you go.
Oh my God, I love that one.
He is so stinking adorable. I love that series.
Wishbone himself is adorable. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Wishbone is a dog, correct?
Yes.
Mhm.
Dog.
Okay.
He's the smartest dog on TV.
Yeah, and also the funniest and most sarcastic.
No, I don't know. I've never seen Wishbone. I just like, when she was like, I love that. I'm like, it was a dog. And she's like, yeah, but you said to me, he's like, he's probably dead now. I'm like, yeah, eventually. Like, I mean, like you said, because it's like the dog, this series is like 20 years old. It's like,
Yeah, it's from the 90s.
there's that documentary about them all going to heaven. Like it's probably happened by now. So,
Folks, just to let everybody know who's watching or listening to this, yeah, At the Devil's Ball does not normally talk about dead dogs. Anywhere near as much as we have this evening.
I mean, we know Odie is gone because Garfield gave a bag of chocolate, and now we talked about
Holy shit, I forgot about that one. That is 3 dead dogs and 1 At the Devil's Ball. All right. Oh my god.
Veterinarian's ball. So I mean,
yeah. At the farm up north ball. That's what this is.
John very, very quickly sold Odie to a farm. Will he be happy?
They did go up there for Christmas after Halloween, so the farm up north.
But, any last thoughts on Halloween or Halloween specials? I'd like to go around the room one more time and tell us something about that you want people to know about Halloween, about yourself, about what you think about the holiday. Let's end on that note. Jen, you want to go first?
Yeah, Halloween is more like a religious observance in our home. I know that's true for a lot of people. Not just for the witchy stuff, but like seriously, I don't even have control over the TV for like this entire month usually, because Sam has a viewing pattern that he has presented,
Right.
and each day is wrote down like, okay, here's the movie we're watching today. So it's a great opportunity to expand your horizons and the type of horror movies that you watch.
Sure.
Don't be too narrow. Kind of veer out a little bit and have a good time.
Wonderful. Thank you for being on, Jen. Nastasia, how about you?
Halloween is a religion. Halloween is a lifestyle. It is not just one day. It's the entire month of September is Halloween Eve. It's just the best day, and anything that I find that has the word Halloween in, I will watch it, including apparently this evening, Paul Lind. Pray for me, everyone.
Why are you making that face?
Nastasia, did I see a trick or treat half-eaten Samael, whatever it is?
Oh, good eye. Yes.
That sounds like I was being a creeper, but I just saw a partially eaten candy. That had my attention. So, all right, there we go. That's what I wanted to know.
And Nastasia, every year you do a special Halloween ritual that you do every year.
I do. I'm on year 12. Every October, I randomly started calling it Naz's October Orgy of Violence, and now I can never change the name. So every year I watch 31 movies that I've never seen, and I post commentary on many social medias, including LiveJournal, because I just can't give that up, apparently.
Wow.
And yeah, hey, I had the best LiveJournal name ever. It's Sacrilegious from the Forbidden Donut episode. So you don't give that journal name up.
No.
I don't.
No.
Even if the Russians own LiveJournal now. But yeah, I do that every year. I make commentary on things. Nate judges me for a lot of my commentary, but
She doesn't like art house horror, guys.
I like some art house horror movies.
You did like the remake of Suspiria. I'll give you that one.
I loved the remake of Suspiria. So see, that gets me points. That gets me forgiveness for not liking Hereditary.
That's the hottest take of the night. That's Toni Collette bursting into flames hot take. That's what that is.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's-
Gabriel Byrne burning hot
Burn
take. That's what
burns.
it is. It's the burn.
Yeah. And Nastasia, I wanted to give you the opportunity one more time. Also, if we did it on your episode, but you write books or something.
I do
Yes.
write books.
Yeah.
They live on Amazon. I write paranormal romance, basically about how the devil got a raw deal and he gets to have a much more enjoyable life in my series. And I write under the pen name Ava Martell. So if anyone is curious, that's where it is.
That's online. And then last but certainly not least, Paul and Mary Stedman. Last remarks and the same invite, Paul. Plug your podcasts as much as you would like.
I've been pyramid scheming it the entire night. I apologize. So Mary,
no, I know
your thoughts, and then I'll just steamroll because that's what I do.
Well, I will admit, Halloween wasn't such a big deal for me when I was a kid. My parents never really did a whole lot for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Never decorated. My parents were really boring. But as I got older, it started becoming more of a big deal because a lot of my friends were really into Halloween. So it got me more into Halloween. So I would say that that's the best part of it for me, is building friendships around it, and the people that I love that it's so important to, and finding all of these new things, these new Halloween specials that I never knew existed. So it's really, ultimately, I feel like I'm living in the prime of my Halloween life now.
I feel like Halloween is wasted on the young.
Yep,
in many, many ways. Yeah. I feel like once you grow up, you actually appreciate it even more. So I'm right there with you on that. So thank you very much for being on, Mary.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It's always
absolutely.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as Nathaniel was stating, I've been trying to sneak in references, I guess, to everything that I do. That, yeah,
Actually, haven't mentioned it that much, Paul.
I just
in your head, you've mentioned it a lot.
Oh,
but
you know,
have
you have a podcast. It's like you go out to dinner. People are like, hey, what's going on?
By the way, I have a podcast.
Yeah, it's like you just want to be like, hey, what's going on? I have a podcast. It's like everyone's like, we have a podcast too. It's like, no, come on mine. So yeah, I have 7 podcasts and I have 2. The Invasion of the Podcast, where this month of October we're doing spooky animation all month long. We've covered Monster House. We've covered 3 episodes of Treehouse of Horror, 3, 4, and 5, I believe. And then we also covered, we're covering Paranorman coming up this week.
That was
Very
a
nice.
good movie.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it until this week, and that movie is a delight. So it'll be fun to talk about that. So yeah, you guys can find on Invasion of the Podcast. Then also I do another show called Strange Highways, where my co-host and I were watching The Twilight Zone in sequence, the original series.
Mhm.
I would love to have Sam and Nathaniel you on for that, because we're in season 5, so the clock is ticking. We're almost to be fair, there's 37 or 8 episodes, so just pick one. We'll figure it out. But
Of which show?
the Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
the original series.
We'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're about to cover Terror at 20,000 Feet, which that's the famous Wing Walker Shatner episode, and then move on from there. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So it's always spooky around there because it's Twilight Zone.
Sure.
And yeah, I just got, like I said, it's like Mary pointed out and everybody else pointed out, it's like just like find other things. Like there's the nostalgia that we all love.
Sure.
But there's cool things out there that maybe have never occurred to us before. So just find cool things, and this is the perfect month to dive in.
Absolutely.
And have fun. And it's fun being a grown up because you can stay up as late as you want.
That's
You
true.
can eat candy as you want, and you can watch whatever you want.
Very true.
Yeah.
Be jealous, kids. You get trick or treating, but we get no bedtime. So eat it.
Buy my candy whenever I want. I don't need
I can just go to the store and get a sack full of candy.
Pre-existing conditions. You guys, what?
I got a full bag of tiny things. What you gonna do?
Yeah. The kids would be like, well, at the rich people's house, to get full candy bars, would be like, bitch, I got a whole bunch of real candy bars.
Yeah.
And you can't have any of them. They are all for me. I have a whole bag of full Reese's peanut butter cups.
It's for a pocket change and Bible tracts at you while I eat full bars in my house. It's fine.
Tell you what, kid.
I'm going to give out an unsweetened oatmeal this year.
Make sure it's steel cut. At least they get something.
And outside of the packet, you have to sprinkle it in there.
What's the flavor?
Oh,
I'm just gonna start throwing handfuls of sugar at them.
Sugar
The lady house that gives out toothbrushes.
If anybody's even gonna trick or treat this year, I mean, like we are in the middle of a pandemic, so I mean, hopefully there's some sort of trick or treating thing going on. But I'm actually wondering if the mall or store thing is gonna happen again. Like if that's gonna be like wear a mask and go trick or treating. Like I don't know. I really hope there's some sort of Halloween for kids this year. But
I mean, it's only like a week away, and when
Yeah.
it drops on the podcast, it'll be only a couple days away. So obviously we're not in the know. We're not keeping an eye out for what kids are doing. There is something I'm sure the parents already know about.
Individual American single slices. Just
Wrapped or unwrapped?
just wrapped. No. Unwrapped, you're a heathen.
Yeah.
Wrapped, they know that you didn't put drugs in it.
Yeah. Sam,
Yes.
what last thoughts on our way out here?
I think we've already covered everything. Go watch the Paul Lynde special. I dare you.
And then the scariest holiday ever is coming up after that. Election day.
Like everybody else said, I mean, you just go have fun with it. Go try to watch new things. Go try to watch your favorite old things. Just have fun. It's
Find something fun to do for Halloween. Absolutely.
the last shittiest year there's been.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Don't be too cool
Right.
to do things.
Yeah.
That I
Have
think
fun. Be a dork.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, that's something to be important to note. I think. Yeah, don't be too cool for Halloween. I've seen that on Twitter. People being like, Halloween is for kids, and when I'm like, shut up.
Right.
Let people enjoy things.
Exactly. Halloween's for anybody that loves anything even remotely spooky. Rather, not spoopy.
That's
Spoopy. That's yeah, I know kids on the internet are saying spoopy now. I don't know, but
type of spooky.
and Paul starts voguing apparently. But yeah, but yeah, anyway, but yeah, I mean I think that's a good way to put it out. Is don't be too cool for Halloween. Look up stuff that you watched when you were a kid. It's actually still pretty fun to watch, as ridiculous as it might end up being. Except Paul Lynde. Don't watch Paul Lynde.
Watch it.
Or watch it, whatever. I don't know. I
May or may not be disappointed.
yeah. I mean, it's
You are contractually
thing.
listen to watch it now. It's the rule.
All right. Well, in that case, without any further comment, I will just I'll sign us out with saying Happy Halloween. But anyway, seriously, Happy Halloween from us at the Devil's Ball. Our friends here, Paul and Mary Stedman.
Everybody on the count of 3, trick or treat.
Yeah.
1,
All right.
2, 3. Trick
Trick
or
or
Trick or
treat.
treat.
Thank you. But thank you to Paul and Mary Stedman. Thank you to Samuel Newman. Thank you to Jen, his vastly better half. And thank you, Nastasia, as well, for also being here. And thank you at home for watching. Thank you for listening to us. If you do, if you don't, go to hell. And you won't even know I said that because you won't be
Because you're
listening
not
anyway. Yeah. So, but anyway, thank you very much for listening. As always, I am Nathaniel Johnson. I am the host, Samuel Newman. I'm on Twitter at Film Hurts. Sam is at Samael. How do I spell that, Sam?
SAMMAEAL.
And we are at Devils_AT. And again, thank you very much for watching. And have a happy Halloween.
Yes,
And be safe. And thank you very much. Good night and namaste. And we are out.
All right.